Hi Homeworthy, I'm Tahira and welcome to our home in Cheshire, England. Let me show you around.
This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Tahira Resalat. I'm a product designer and welcome to our home in Cheshire, England. We moved up to Cheshire to be closer to family, and when we were deciding where we wanted to buy our first home, that was something that was quite important to us. I ended up only ever viewing this house. George, my husband, he'd viewed a few other houses before I did, and it was pretty much love at first sight. I walked in to the house all the way through, went into the conservatory and saw the blue skies above, and I just knew that this is the house that I wanted. When it came to choosing what kind of house we wanted, I think our hearts were always set on a very traditional sort of period property English home, but with it being our first home, we wanted something that we could move into straight away and not necessarily have to change anything, knock any walls down, not have a functioning kitchen or bathroom. The previous owners actually had quite a strong sense of style. We had a dark blue wall at the back just here, and there was some leopard print wallpaper going on upstairs in one of the bedrooms. We decided that we were going to start off by essentially turning the house back to a blank canvas. So we spent probably the first 6 to 8 months of our time here just painting the walls white and stripping off loads of wallpaper, painting all the doors white, and giving ourselves the blank canvas so that we could start to imagine what the house would look like or what certain rooms would look like. And that was really key to kind of the creative process that we went through. One day I was like somewhere in the kitchen doing something and I just heard these noises, and I ran up and George had started stripping the leopard print wallpaper off because he was like, I just can't look at it anymore. So yeah, that's kind of how we started. Welcome to our hallway. So this is the space as soon as you come into the house, and there are a couple of little decor decisions that we made in this hallway. So as you can see, it's quite a narrow hallway, and so it was important to try and make it feel less of an awkward space when guests are coming in, they're taking their shoes off, and it's just when you're having those awkward conversations. So we decided to paint the ceiling in this pink, and then with the pink we decided to kind of pick out some of the details. So this is something you'll see kind of running through the house with the door frames painted a different color to the door just for that contrast. So this is the downstairs loo. We've done the same with the door leading into the living room as well. And yeah, just that pink kind of working through the room. My favorite thing about this hallway is probably this mural just here, which I painted myself, free-handed the curves, and yeah, they're supposed to kind of remind you of some of our travels, a little bit about where I'm from. So you see a lot of these kind of really traditional South Asian arches in places like Bangladesh. And yeah, so I really wanted to bring a piece of that to our house. And this piece of art is by a fantastic illustrator called Bea Muller, and I've got a few of her pieces around the house, but I really like this one because of obviously the pinks and the greens, which are like a running theme in our house, but also I'd like to think that the girl in the painting looks a little bit like me. So let's go into the kitchen now. Welcome to our very red kitchen. This has been red for not that long. We actually originally had glossy white cabinets here. So the kitchen is fairly new from when the previous owners had it put in. So when we came in, we knew that we didn't necessarily want to pull out the kitchen, start again, because it did have good bones, but we weren't all too keen about the glossy white sort of like J-pull cabinets. So we changed them out for these more like shaker style, kind of classic drawer fronts. And I really wanted drawer fronts that I could have handles in instead of the J-pull, just kind of for practical reasons as well, because you get kind of dirt building up in the little gaps. So yeah, we ended up with this shaker style, and I really wanted the kitchen to be kind of quite a bold color because it's the first thing you see as you walk into the house. And I just kind of fell in love with this red. The story of the red is that I got this red paint in a tester pot to do a little project upstairs, and I ended up liking it so much. I was thinking that it would be a perfect color for the kitchen. And so, yeah, we ended up spray painting the cabinets in the red. It's Arabian Red by Craig & Rose, and these beautiful scallop handles from Plank Hardware. They, yeah, I think they are like the jewelry of the kitchen, really, and they really stand out and look so beautiful against the red. And the scallop motif as well, obviously, is something that kind of runs throughout the house, so we've got a lot of that wave detail. The worktop, we didn't change from what it looked like when we originally bought it, mostly because of costs. So in the future, we hope to get sort of quartz worktops, but for now, I think it works quite well together. We also love the floating shelves that we had put in. All the things on there are essentially just decor items. I'm not necessarily using the chopping boards that are on there day to day, but it's really nice to have a place where you can style bits that just make you feel good when you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, and it just ends up being a place that you enjoy being in. We've got another piece of artwork by B. and Muller here. Yeah, I just really, really love it. Couple of the sort of more detailed bits. A lot of these things we did thrift, and I think that is one of the best parts of having a space like this, where you can have a floating shelf that you can style. It's really about layering some new bits with some old bits to get it to work together. That red colour as well, we've tried to pull out in a few of the plant pots, and like the terracotta and the wood, the tones kind of all work very well together. And then the green, obviously, of the plants then come through in some of the artwork, some of the details here, some of the things like the candlesticks. So it all does work quite nicely together. This is our nice little coffee corner. My husband and I love our cup of coffee first thing in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon as well. So I got this really cute mug rack to display all of my colourful mugs. And yeah, one of my favourite bits of the day is coming over and picking what mug I'm going to have my coffee out of in the morning. And yeah, this little shelf we also had put in. We've got the espresso cups at the top, our coffee machine, and quite a new addition to our kitchen and to the rest of the house. We got these paintable plug sockets. So these are also from Plank, and some plug sockets and switches around the house where essentially the top part is paintable, so you can make it match the colour of your walls. So if you're into colour drenching like we are with this room and plenty of other rooms in our house, it does really well to kind of seamlessly blend in so that you can have multiple plugs and things around the house in rooms without it being disruptive to the look. So they're practical and aesthetic, which is something we love in this house. This is just the other end of the kitchen. You'll notice that the floating shelf here does kind of continue on from the one that we've got on this side. So we ended up getting sort of 2 planks of timber and chopping this one to size just so it feels continuous across. Couple of the details here actually. So these bowls, there's 4 of them, we got on our honeymoon when we were in Morocco. So yeah, they're very special to us. I never want to use them because I don't want to ruin them. So it's become one of the things that we do display. I just love looking at them. I think they're just such nice colours. couple of details. So this is a coaster from a cafe. So my husband and I went to the same university, and we spent a lot of time at a cafe called Steam Yard in Sheffield. So I ended up framing the coaster from there just because I have such nice memories. This little piece of art just here, I think it's a piece of art from the Brambley Cottage books, if I'm not wrong, but I found it in a charity shop, and I think there's just something so cute about these two mice in the kitchen, one of them hard at work reaching for something on the stairs and the other one just by the fireplace. And I think that it's kind of quite indicative of our relationship, and it just reminded me of us. So yeah, I ended up framing it because I think it's so cute and kind of manifesting for our life in the future. And yeah, this was a little plant pot that I got, I can't remember, from like a shop somewhere. And it originally used to be like a grey concrete colour, but I ended up painting it the same paint as the cabinets just to have, again, that balance and bring that colour across quite directly to some of the details here. So yeah, and this again is quite a new addition. We got this little lamp. This is from Value Lights, and yeah, it's nice to just have like those small little touches, like a lamp in the kitchen. I feel like you wouldn't think it because we do have lighting in the kitchen, but sometimes in the evening it's nice to not have the big lights on and just have something like a lamp to just warm up the space. So we get asked a lot how we would describe the style of our home, and I know eclectic, maximalist, those are words that I definitely gravitate towards, but I would say the way that I would describe the style in our home is us. Any of our friends and family that come over and visit our house, one of the first things that they say is that your home is so you. And I think it's really an amalgamation of who we are as people, our backgrounds, and yeah, what we've made our home into, especially the colourful home part. So a little bit of backstory. I grew up in Bangladesh, and our childhood home in Bangladesh, my dad actually took some very bold decisions when it came to decorating the house. So in a traditional sort of South Asian household, it's very, very white. The walls are white, and the colour and the texture and the pattern comes from all of the soft furnishings or the detail in the furniture. And so my dad was kind of a bit of, taking some risks with painting our walls different colours. So my bedroom was pink growing up, my parents' bedroom was purple, our living room was blue, and our dining room was yellow. And so that being the house that I grew up in was very much the blueprint for what I wanted for my home. And so when we did eventually get our own home, that was very much the thing that was driving my thought, that I wanted to use colour to segment and compartmentalize different parts of our home and different living spaces. And so I knew that I wanted our home to be very colourful, but not necessarily how I would make certain colours work together. And that's really where more of that strategic thinking came in. We looked a lot into understanding colour palettes, understanding tones, and the thing that we gravitated towards is putting colours in our home that you can just see out and about. So we say we've got an earth palette, like an earth tone palette in our home. So even though it looks like we've got every colour under the rainbow in our house, we've gone for these sort of like pared back, like muted colours. So the sort of sandy, peachy colour that we have on the walls here, with the mossy green on the sofa. We've got the sky blues. We've got a lot of the rust and the texture of the wood in the house. So those are the things that really kind of harmonize the palette in the house. And when you move from one space to another, even if the color changes, it still feels like it's the same home. Okay, and now let's go over into the living room. So I have lots of favorite things about our house, but probably one of my most favorite things is this doorway, and indeed the shelves on this side, but the doorway especially. So when we bought the house, this just used to be a full wall. So we had a radiator on this side and a radiator where I'm stood as well. But what it meant was that when one of us was in the kitchen cooking, and maybe the other person was in the living room, or if we had guests over and we were hosting, we were quite separated, being in the kitchen and then the living space. And it just felt a little bit isolating when you were in the kitchen. And we love to cook, we love to host. And so we really wanted there to be this thoroughfare between the kitchen and the living room without it being completely open plan. So we lived with the idea for a while, and yeah, having lived in the space for quite a bit, we decided to finally put this doorway in. When we were deciding what kind of door we wanted as well, we didn't want there to be a huge amount of build work, so we didn't want to knock the whole wall down and start again. I guess having kind of like just the traditional door would also mean that you would have to account for the space needed to like open the door. And that's why we ended up going with these bifold doors, because it takes up minimal space, but it also does a good job of separating the areas. But then we've also got the see-through kind of window pane at the top, which means that if one of us is cooking and the other person is doing something else, we can still chat to each other, we can still see. And most importantly, sometimes if I'm cooking and we're watching something on Netflix, then I can just be there on the hob and still keep an eye out on what's happening on the screen. So yeah, absolutely love this door. Let's talk about the bookshelves in the living room. So these bookshelves, if you can believe it, maybe you can, are actually Billy bookcases from IKEA. And essentially what we did is we attached the Billy bookcases on, we got the extenders, and then we added coving around the edge just to make it all look built in and make it look like it was always here. In terms of painting as well, we painted them the same color as the walls. So we color drenched them, just so again, it feels like it is built in. And yeah, we're really proud of how they've turned out, and they've just become a great space for us to obviously store books, but also just show off a lot of little bits and pieces that represent us, things from our travels, or just sort of funny stories and anecdotes that we have from over time. We started out by wanting to separate the bookshelves into kind of his and hers bookshelves. So we kind of separated out the books that we have, organizing them into the types of books that they are, so like subject area topics. But then eventually it did end up becoming just like an amalgamation of both of our books. So some small details here. This is actually a trophy that George made when he was in school. And I just think it's just the cutest thing ever. So we decided that it needed prime spot to be displayed on our shelf. We've got a little model of a rickshaw. I believe we have one on the other shelf as well, because I'm from Bangladesh, and some of my favorite memories are riding rickshaws. We've got some few little decorative elements. There's a picture frame here that I just DIY'd with some photo booth pictures of me and George. We've got a few books and things. This is a model of the Titanic. I feel like lots of people just have them. And yeah, we've got some more pieces of artwork, my string of pearls that probably could do with some more love. We've got these really, really cool lights just here. We've got one on either lamp. They are actually rechargeable lamps. And I just think that they're so cool because essentially we just fitted them to the bookshelves so they didn't need any wiring. And it's really nice in the evenings just to give the room a bit of like a cozy glow. And yeah, we'll move over to the shelves just over here as well. So we've got a couple more details. I know George would want me to talk about his Lewis Hamilton Funko Pop. We are big F1 fans in this house, so we had to have Lewis in his Mercedes era. We've got these Lego sunflowers. We've got a few Lego flowers in the house. I just think they're such a cute addition, and yeah, a nice way for us to bring together both of our interests, Lego and flowers. Again, we've got another slightly bigger rickshaw here in a different colour. I really like this piece of artwork. It's like in a postcard style of Bangladesh. So yeah, really bringing through my heritage, where I'm from. That's really important to us. And then of course, just the two of us in our kind of English and Bangladeshi union. So yeah, we've got some cookbooks, some other books. Can't forget my One Direction albums. They get prime spot just here. And yeah, another set of string of pearls and some of the little bits and bobs over there. But yeah, styling this shelf has essentially just been plonking on all the little bits and pieces that we have around the house, but they do tell a story. They talk about nice memories that we have together and things that we do want to display. So yeah, probably the heart of our home, and really what we designed this living room from, would be this giant green sofa. So this is actually a modular sofa. It's the Yatabo sofa from IKEA, and we fell in love with it when we went and saw it in IKEA ages ago. And we actually ended up buying 2 of the modules before we had bought the house. So this is from our first home together, but we had the vision that wherever our home was going to be, that we wanted to have this statement green sofa. And so we ended up just buying more and more pieces as we went. My favorite thing about the sofa, other than the gorgeous green, is that they all have storage underneath, so you can just pack it full of stuff, blankets and things. We've ended up compartmentalizing each module to store different things. So we've got our games in that one, we've got blankets in this one, we've got more books in this one, I think. So yeah, really handy piece of furniture, but also really nice that it is L-shaped and fits lots of people in. So we love cozying up here for watching films, binge watching all of the shows, and yeah, of course, having people over. And yeah, like I said, we centered the living room decor around this sofa. And so it was really important that we picked a wall color that was going to complement the green. And that's how we ended up on this peachy pink wall color. This is Pink 02 by Lick. And yeah, I just think that it complements the green so well without taking away from this being kind of the center of the room. Similarly with this rattan lampshade, this is from Made. And yeah, I just love the sort of arch lamp that kind of comes across, because it just helps cocoon this zone a little bit. And then also one of my favorite things about the living room is one of our latest additions, which is this piece of art. So we actually got it from our most recent trip to Bangladesh in Dhaka, which is the capital, which is where I grew up. And this is just indicative of the streets of Dhaka. I have such fond memories of growing up there, and I just love the colors in here, the sunset, the way that the light comes through. And yeah, so we ended up getting it framed in this like really nice rusty wooden frame, and I just think that it really ties this space in together, and we've got those colors sort of coming through in some of the details in the room. We've also got this rug here, again with the scallop details. I just think it's just such a nice way to make sure that you've got those small things that run through the house. Again, the wave details in the light up here as well. So that's a little pro tip if you're wanting things to look more put together than they are. Just run the same shape through different parts of your house. This is our side table in the living room. So there's actually a really interesting story about this. I ended up getting it on eBay from British Heart Foundation's eBay page. I was after a kind of mid-century sideboard for quite a while. I was bidding on loads of them and I just didn't win the bid. And then on a random Wednesday at 12 o'clock, I ended up winning the bid for this sideboard, and we had to drive about an hour to go and get it, but it was definitely worth the drive and also how incredibly heavy this is. I think it's such a nice contrast to some of the newer furniture pieces that we do have in the house, but that's something that we've been very intentional about, mixing old and new together. And it just brings such a nice tone to this part of the room, the really like warm wooden color. And it is also a great piece of storage. So as I'm sure lots of people do, we do just shove a load of stuff in here that we want to hide when we're tidying up. So yeah, great bit of storage, great bit of furniture. And yeah, it kind of matches, again, like I said, about those warm tones in these terracotta details that we have. So the plant pot over there, the giant plant over here. This was actually a marketplace find. I went and bought it for £30. It was a lot smaller when I did get it, and it's kind of starting to take over the room a little bit. As you can see, it's encroached more and more into the kind of walkway space, but I love it. I think that the leaves are so pretty. We've got another monstera on the other side of the conservatory as well. So yeah, it kind of bookends the living spaces together, but I just really love how dramatic monstera plants are. Couple of details on the sideboard. We've got this typewriter. Again, I got it from a vintage shop. I haven't ever actually used it, but I just love that I own a typewriter. And if I wanted to, I could use it. So yeah, a couple of books here as well, sort of coffee table books. But again, in terms of the color, it really ties in the conservatory with the blue, and then we've got the green again, kind of a nod to the green sofa. So yeah, it's all about, again, pulling across details from different parts of the house and putting them in one place so it all looks very intentional. We're a house of engineers. My husband studied aerospace engineering. I started out as a materials engineer, so we are very meticulous when it comes to details and making sure everything is level in the house. And so when it came to our creative process, we had to really make sure that we were balancing getting things perfect, getting things right, and just trying things out for the first time. I started off as an engineer, and I then ended up studying design, and I'm currently a product designer. So I'm looking at things sort of to pixel perfection all day, every day during work. So naturally, I've developed a sense of colors. I know what looks good. I know what works, what looks balanced. And so I think I've definitely translated a lot of that learning into how we've approached decorating our home. And as with a lot of design, it is a lot of trial and error. So we're not afraid to make mistakes. And I think that's really important. You don't have to get it right the first time, even though in the back of your mind, you're like, I might not come back to this, or it needs to be perfect the first time around. That's probably one of the biggest lessons that we have learned throughout the process of decorating our home, renovating our home, that if we don't like how something looks in a couple of months' time, we can revisit it, and just giving ourselves that space to make mistakes or try something out and experiment. And if it doesn't work, we either paint it over, or we add different colors, or we just make something else work. Yeah, in my day-to-day job, we do a lot of experimentation. We're always trying to understand what a user wants, trying different ways to solve a problem. So that kind of thinking definitely comes through into how we've approached decorating our home as well. So before we move into the conservatory, I just wanted to talk about the wall that did used to be here. So the original house, when it was built, this was the end of it. So this would have been the back of the house into the garden. But I think 2 owners ago, they had a conservatory put in, but when we bought the house, the original back wall was still here with the French doors. So we had 2 windows on either side and French doors that you would use to get into the conservatory. And so it really felt like there was this like divide between the 2 living spaces in the house. And as soon as I walked in on the first day, I knew that we wanted to get rid of it, but we had to really live in the space and understand how we were moving around and whether it was going to be practical, whether it was going to be warm enough or cool enough when we wanted it to be. we did decide to obviously knock it through, and we're so glad that we did, because now we have this really kind of long hallway, walkway area, and you can see the back of the house all the way as soon as you walk in, which I think is quite nice. And it's also deceptive because from the outside the house doesn't look as long as it is inside. So that's quite nice. And yeah, essentially we've used colour then to kind of zone these two spaces. So we've clearly got the kind of pink green living room, and then we walk into what is the green dining room. And yeah, I can talk you through some of the details that we have here. So this is our travel gallery wall, and like the name says, it's essentially a gallery wall of souvenirs that we've picked up from all of our travels. My husband and I love to travel around the world, so yeah, we essentially go around collecting artwork that we can put up in frames. Most, if not all of the frames are also thrifted, so it's what gives it the kind of eclectic look, which I love. So a bit of a story about how we ended up with the colour in this room. For my birthday about 2 years ago, my husband gifted me a bunch of wall paint, and it is more exciting than it sounds because it was lick paint, which I was just obsessed with for the longest time. I still am. And so I was very excited when I got 3 tins of paint for my birthday. And yeah, one of them was Blue 04, which is what this room here is painted in. And so I started to paint this kind of foliage leafy thing at the top here. I was trying to copy a wallpaper that I saw, but just put my own twist on it. And so, yeah, I painstakingly took a long time to go around the whole conservatory and paint these leaves on. But yeah, because I did that, it kind of set the mood for what this room deserved, which is for it to be drenched in this blue. And yeah, I think it's really nice because it pulls out a lot of the details in the artwork. So where we've got the nice skies or the nice seas, the blue kind of balances that quite nicely. So couldn't have picked a nicer color. Something else super cool in our conservatory that we did recently was put in these 2 lampshades. So these are from Pookie, as is the rechargeable whole rechargeable wire system that we've got going on. And when you're in a conservatory, obviously it's amazing that you've got the blue skies that you can look out of at the top, but it also means that it's really difficult to get wiring and lighting into a space like this. I've always dreamed of having lights suspended above the dining table. Blame Pinterest for that. But yeah, it was really difficult to figure out how we would do something like this in a space like ours up until we came across the rechargeable kits. And so we essentially just drilled into the UPVC at the top and fitted the lights on, which meant that we could then suspend these 2 lampshades, and yeah, you just turn them on and off with a remote, and it just makes for such cozy evenings if we're just having a nice meal or if we want to host. So yeah, definitely love having these here. And again, it's like pulling that red detail through that you see in pops throughout our house, like the red kitchen, the red lights here. It again bookends the spaces. So yeah, we're very, very pleased to have done this. So we also have this really cozy tan sofa here in the corner. This is from Swoon. And yeah, with this being a kind of living, dining, relaxing area, we just needed a space where you could just sit down and admire the garden, look up at the sky, and just relax with a book. So just made a little corner here. We've again got those wave details in the lamp just here. And then, yeah, most importantly, this very gorgeous rug on the floor that we got from Chiswick Antique Market. It was just such an amazing find. Only my husband had to carry it through London for about 8 hours on his shoulder till we safely made it back to Cheshire. So I know that he'd also definitely want me to talk about this rug. Yeah, it's travelled quite far to get here, but here it is. And yeah, what a nice way to make a little corner to relax in. When it comes to my favorite thing about our home, in all honesty, it changes day to day, week to week. It's usually whatever room I've last decorated or last tinkered with is going to be my favorite. So at the moment, it will be our guest room. We spent a lot of time in there recently. We experimented with using a mural wallpaper for the first time. We've not done that anywhere else in the house, so we're very proud of how that's turned out. And again, with it being a guest room, we've really had the opportunity to kind of go all out and make it feel more like an experience, so that when we have friends and family coming over to stay, that they feel excited and they feel like it's interesting to stay in that room. We took some really bold decisions with sort of color drenching the room in pink. We've got this really nice chocolatey colored headboard, and yeah, all of those things coming together has really made that room feel, I would say, quite luxe. So that's probably my favorite space in the house right now. It's also on the top floor, so it's the coolest part of the house. So sometimes I just go and sit in there and think about how nice it would be to just be a guest in our home. But yeah, probably my favorite at the moment. Welcome to our master bedroom. This is also the very, very green room. A couple of things to talk about here. So this was probably our first go at doing something a bit more tricky in the realms of DIY. So we did the paneling ourselves. Hopefully you can't tell. And yeah, we were quite undecided when it came to the color in this room, what we wanted to go with. We did originally pick out a lot of reds. There's a running theme around us loving reds in this house. But when we tried some of the samples, we felt like it was just a bit too loud. And then I read something about green being the easiest color to perceive by the human eye. And I just really liked that, because a bedroom is where you should relax and it should be peaceful. So we ended up going with this really lovely green. It's green 18 by Lick. And yeah, it kind of set the tone for the palette that we wanted for the rest of the room. So we added in this really lovely foliage detail wallpaper at the top, which has got these really nice little pink flowers. And so pink kind of became the accent color for the room. So you'll see it in some of the details in the bedding. This is a gata, which is a Bangladeshi blanket. So they are hand stitched and they are just so beautiful. And so yeah, again, it's a really nice way to bring together some of my heritage and bring that throughout essentially every item in the home. Another super interesting thing that I do want to talk about is this headboard that we DIY'd. So again, waves, I'm obsessed with them, and we wanted a wavy headboard for the longest time, and so we just made one ourselves. And yeah, quite a steep learning curve, but we were very, very excited to get to use a lot of the tools that we got on birthdays and Christmas presents. And so yeah, with the help of a jigsaw, we managed to carve out these really nice waves, and now we have a really nice looking headboard. So we've again got more of that wave detail going on through to the door handles here, some of the smaller versions in the handles on the bedsides as well. And yeah, once again, just bringing through that wave motif everywhere in the house. Welcome to our study. This used to be a guest room, but we more recently converted it to our study. Though, funnily enough, we don't currently have a desk in here. It's a work in progress. But probably one of the best things about this room are the stripes that I hand painted. I wanted to have this really nice wallpaper look that I saw on Pinterest, but the wallpaper was super expensive, so I thought, how hard can it be? And it was quite hard. So I ended up using kind of the classic frog tape hack, where you just tape up the stripes and peel off the stripes once you've painted over. But I just knew that with doing it with the frog tape, I wasn't going to be able to get those like perfect crisp lines that you would if it was a wallpaper. And so I ended up going with a brush and essentially adding in the line by hand to make it purposefully look hand painted. And I think that it's ended up having a much nicer effect because then it clearly looks hand painted, it looks more intentional, and yeah, there's just something really like warm and more rounded about it rather than those really crisp lines that would have just been impossible to get by hand. And yeah, so we started off with the stripy blue walls in this room, and when this room started, there was no furniture in here, so we could really be very adventurous with what we did in this room. This is also the room where we used to have the leopard print wallpaper, so we were very keen to get rid of that as soon as. And because it's not a living space, we were quite bold with what we could do in here, but if we did ever get overwhelmed, we could just close the door and we wouldn't need to worry about it. And then it came to kind of furnishing the room. So like I said, it did used to be a guest room. The bed has now been moved to another room, but it meant that we could then add in this sofa bed so that the room can still be used if we ever get loads of guests, but it ends up being more of a practical sitting room and also doubles as the study for me to work from here. This gorgeous sofa bed is from Made, as is the red throw, and you'll see that red's really been used as the accent colour here. So we're starting with this red door frame and then through to the soft furnishings, so the cushions, the throw, and the detail on the picture frame as well. So that is the same red that we use in the kitchen. And yeah, I just taped it through and got these really nice stripes across just to balance the stripes that we've also got on the wall. This right here is a little side table, again, that we upcycled, painted it that same red, and again a lamp that I also upcycled and just changed the lampshade on. So once again, we've got these paintable plug sockets and switches, so you can see here, this is a really good example of where you can really blend the wall into the switchboard. It's almost like it's not even there. So yeah. And one more detail just here. This is a little door hook that we picked up from a holiday in Cornwall. It was just a white beach house, but I used the paint, the red paint again to just do the stripes to give a nod to the room, balance the red accent colour that we have, and I just think it's just such a nice little cute detail to have in the back of the door. A nice little surprise for if you do end up looking at the back of the door. Welcome to our guest room, namely my favourite place in the house. This is the room where we really went all out. We made so many fun design choices in this room. So one of the first ones, obviously the fully colour drenched pink walls, taking it all the way up to the ceiling. Because this is in the top floor of the house, we've got these really kind of difficult angular shapes to work with. So what we ended up doing is essentially leaning into the shapes rather than trying to move away. And something that I read was that if you are trying to work with spaces like this that have got difficult angles, it's better to colour drench because it then draws the attention away from the harsh angles, compared to if you were to just paint, for example, this wall, it would actually accentuate the angles in the room and make you draw your eyes more towards the harsh angles. So this was a clever little hack that we employed in this room to hopefully make it feel a little bit larger than it is. So this is obviously one of my really favourite corners in the room. We've got this gorgeous Made armchair. It's really nice to just tuck away and sit here. We've got this doll's house that I got as a gift a couple of years ago. I've not done anything to it, but I think it's just really nice being here. Hopefully one day I do get to do it all up inside. But yeah, it's just a nice little addition to this corner. We've also got a little side table with this lampshade that I upcycled. I just added in these little squiggles because I like squiggles. And Yeah, so moving on to this part of the room, of course, I can't not talk about this gorgeous mural wallpaper. This is from Hovia, and this is their sunset pink mural. And yeah, a lot of the choices in this room in terms of colour ended up just working by coincidence. So this pink that we've got here is the same pink that we've got in the hallway downstairs, pink 13. And so when we wallpapered these two walls, I was just looking at the colours here and I thought, I wonder how it would work with the pink. And so I just ended up painting the skirting at the bottom, and it turned out it was exactly the perfect pink that we needed. And so that's how the colour drenching came about. And then over onto this corner, we've obviously got this really nice cozy bed. This is just a simple platform bed. It doesn't come with the headboard. The headboard is additional. And again, it's that really nice chocolate colour. I personally am not a great fan of velvet. I don't like how the texture feels, but coupled with the fact that this is the guest room, it felt like the right decision for the colour. I was willing to compromise on the texture. We've got this really nice bedside table, again, gorgeous lamp from Maid as well, and super, super cozy bedding. So this is actually from Piglet in Bed, and nothing but the absolute best for our guests. I think the thing that gives a home soul is that it represents you, that there are elements of you in the house, whether it's somewhere you've been on holiday and brought back a souvenir, whether it's photographs of you, essentially anything that gives a home life tells the story of like your childhood. And yeah, when you walk in the house, that you know that it's yours. Homeworthy, it was a pleasure showing you around, but you've got to go now, so bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to Homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.